This pile of parts here is actually a rare and valuable vintage mountain bike for which certain parts do not even exist. It's a 1997 Slingshot bike. Instead of a down tube, there's actually a steel cable and a spring and a piece of engineered composite material called a flex board or dogbone link holding the whole front end to the rear end. Back then, this was suspension, and it worked. The ride was very smooth, the bike was light, and this would have been considered very high end. This is worth restoring, but there's a good reason you don't find many of them in full rideable condition. The dogbone link. It's made of G10 Garolite, a fiberglass composite that flexes. The entire bike is held together with this one piece, but through repeated flexing millions and millions of times, and with age, it can fatigue and grow brittle. That means it could potentially fail, and you can't buy a new one anymore, which is how this bike ended up sitting around my attic for several years. But I couldn't let it sit any longer, so I set out to make my own dogbone link. But first, I had to get the old one out. Yeah, I thought this thing would just unbolt from the bike, but that's not the case at all. I heated it up. I flexed it around in the vise. I sprayed penetrant on it. I used a pin and a chain to yank on it like a slide hammer. And the more extreme my efforts got, the more I risked damaging the frame or the link itself, which I would need to reverse engineer. But although this link was hopelessly stuck in the bike, it just kept taking whatever I threw at it. I believe on the earliest bikes, they just stuck this dogbone in and bolted it down, and then they got kind of noises. And so this one's epoxied in, and most of them are epoxied in. On forums, people talk about how they're scraping away epoxy when they're replacing their dogbone. This is 20 years after some of those forum posts. It's been sitting there for a long time. As my methodology became increasingly desperate, I hooked the edge of my top tube behind the jaw of my vise to pull on it. Totally disregarding how a vise is actually constructed. That is not how a vise is designed to be used. At that point, I was ready to go thermonuclear and take this link to the boneyard. With the force of an electric winch, victory would soon be mine. Or so I thought. All right, slack is taken up. Let's give it a little click. Did that move my entire workbench? It practically broke my vise off my workbench, which is held on with carriage bolts. Percussion might be the way to do this. Now, as things grew increasingly hopeless, I decided to hook it onto the trailer hitch and try some percussion like I'd been doing earlier on the vise. It came out! The link was out, and it seemed totally intact, so I began taking measurements to replicate the dogbone in 3D. With those dimensions, I began modeling an identical dogbone link until it was ready for some 3D printing. After a few iterations and test fittings, I got it exactly like the original. From there, I found a whole bunch of online services that will machine parts from 3D files, but there was only one service that would do it in the thickness I wanted, and they wanted an arm and a leg. And here's the thing, this part takes a month to make and deliver, and if you order two, the second one is a fraction of the cost. I had no choice but to order two, which totaled $382 for a dogbone. So in the end, it was I who was taken to the boneyard. And so it's been almost a month since then, and I got a ship notification. I should have my links in 2 days. So we'll use the 3D printed one to restore this bike, and then when the box arrives, we'll just hope the part fits perfectly and doesn't snap instantly when I try to ride the bike. For now, we've got work to do. First things first, I need to take this apart properly so we can clean all the parts. This bike was born with a silver spoon in its mouth. Most of the parts barely even need cleaning. It's crazy how good a condition everything's in, but the frame could look better. So I'm gonna use WD-40, super safe on paint, and with a little elbow grease, we can get all these scuffs out of it. For a bike frame that consists of so many parts, it's amazing how little bike there is to actually speak of. But we're not done cleaning. We need power tools for the next part, because if there's any epoxy left over in here, it's gonna prevent our new part from fitting, and I don't wanna have to sand it down or do anything because it's made of G10 Garolite, a fiberglass, very toxic. Ooh, that's exactly the kind of stuff that I don't wanna breathe in. It smells like epoxy. So now, this 3D printed dogbone link comes into play because we can put this frame together and use this as a stand-in before the official part arrives. Yes, the Slingshot bike is held together with a quick release over here, and our 3D printed dogbone link or flex board is installed, not for us to use the bike with, but just so that we have the bike together and we can put all the parts on then. And then in a couple of days when the real thing arrives, it'll be ready to go. So now we can service the suspension fork. It's always interesting opening up a 30-year-old elastomer fork to see what's inside. We'll see whether those elastomers are swollen up or turned to crusty rocks. Yeah, we'll find out. I already ran into my first problem with this fork. I read there's a 6mm bolt down there. There's my 6mm bit below a seal over here. You can't just use one of these extensions and put a bit in it because then the bit will get stuck in the rubber seal. It's gotta go through the rubber seal into the bolt. And so now, I can't get these out. I can't get a bolt into the thing. What are we gonna do? This is a spoke that goes to my penny farthing, so it's super long, and see, it's got the little hook at the end. Let's see if we can get this rubber stopper out. All right, that spoke didn't work. Okay, so I've turned the spoke nipple around so it'll poke through and then kind of grab it. We'll see if that theory works. Yes. When I was a kid, I could never take forks like this apart because I didn't have the right tools. And here I am, 40 years old without the right tools. We'll go to the hardware store and we'll get some tools and have them forever.
Maybe this guy's narrow enough.
You know who has a lot of tools? Old people. Older you get, the more tools you have. Now we're talking. So here's one of the old elastomers, and you can see it's actually not in that bad a shape. It looks bad. It is definitely swelled up, and so this is gonna feel a whole lot better. So this is kind of the whole stack of the fork's internals, and ideally I'd have a replacement for everything, like these little rubber guys here, but I don't, and so we can just clean them up, grease them really good, and do our best. It's a 30-year-old fork. Now these little guys go in there, and to make sure they go in right side up, I'm gonna use the spoke. I gotta take it all apart. I know from last time that these little holes go down into the back. That guy in the comments who's worked in a bike shop from 1997 to 2013 and has serviced a million of these, they're gonna tell me everything I did wrong. And if you're afraid of starting a YouTube channel and putting yourself out there because of that guy, who cares? 0.5% of people are even gonna be able to relate to that. Most people are gonna be having the experience that I'm having right now. Okay, so now we can move on to the parts of the bike that are a little bit more fun. The test dogbone link that I 3D printed, it's printed on like cheap test filament. It's called PETG. I'm gonna print it on something really tough so that maybe we can ride the bike with the 3D printed link, but just around the driveway. I think it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna print it out on polycarbonate. It's gonna be super strong. Just hold that thought and we'll move on to the wheels. Okay, so while that is 3D printing, we're gonna line up the wheels on the truing stand and change the tires. What I keep finding with this bike is stuff like this. The cassette is perfectly clean, but the tires are very old and dry rotted, and so we're going to change those out. I considered getting tan walls front and rear, but I wanna keep it really simple so that the focus remains on the unique frame geometry. I also considered putting Clik inner tubes in this bike. That is a company that I am shareholder in, and we make better Presta valves, but I want it to be period correct, and so I'm leaving the old style Presta valves in it just for style points. So I'm gonna install the fork and start to make this look like a bike. Ideally, we would change this link before we put any parts on it because it's so much easier to work with, but we don't have it yet. In the interest of time, I'm just gonna install everything and we'll work around it. This next one was a pretty tough decision. This is a very, very nice period correct stem. It appears to be of a carbon fiber composite. These resins are notorious, especially the old ones, for becoming brittle. It could snap suddenly. I got another period correct stem. Doesn't look as good, it's not as cool of a stem, and it's made of aluminum. It's not gonna break. The handlebars are carbon fiber also. I especially don't want those. And so I have these taper lights, which are super period correct, but they're pretty narrow, also period correct. These Cannondale handlebars should fit this bike too, and they've got a little more length on them. They match the bike, we'll just keep them. They kind of match this paint over here. So now that this guy is done printing, I'll install it on the bike, and I think it should be strong enough for us to at least test this and maybe ride around the driveway, bounce up and down a little bit. All right, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. We got more bike to put together. So check it out. People argue that today's mountain bikes are overcomplicated and that they used to be simple. Replacing the hydraulic brake line on a modern mountain bike is infinitely easier than replacing the cable that goes to this. So up front, I've already measured this length of cable and put 2 ends on it. That goes up here at the lever and gets run to here. Then the order of operations are really important. These 2 little rubber guys go on the cable to stop it from rubbing on the frame. Then we measure and cut another length of housing, and of course put 2 ends on it. Then a little Teflon sleeve, and then noodle beads. And then finally, this little dust boot. Now, they're not all like that, but this bike is, and that was a thing in the 90s. Ugh. Okay, something just happened off camera. My 3D printed dogbone link cracked. I have a habit of like tilting the bike in the stand by just pushing down on it, and even if this clamp is tight, you can just overcome the force. So I really pushed into it, and it cracked the dogbone link. So we'll put back the other 3D printed link and use it as a stand-in to hold the bike together until we have the real one. So I'm gonna string something up for the time being here. So that should hold until the real piece arrives. Okay, we've more or less got this thing working aside from the dogbone link, which I've decided to not test in the driveway 3D printed. So before we put this cable back in place, the thing's supposed to arrive tomorrow morning, so I'll see you tomorrow. This is either gonna be awesome or it's gonna set us back. Oh, it's green. This is so heavy. No wonder it's so strong. Was the old one that heavy? Yeah, it was pretty heavy. It could have dried out, but yeah, these are tough. Let's see if it fits. Okay, so the right way to do this would have definitely been to do it with the cables out. These look pretty much identical, but they're not. This one is kind of machined to a tighter tolerance, so this is kind of the moment of truth here. Okay, we can tap that in. That one's gonna need a little bit of tapping, but good. It's better that it fits tight than loose because we can sand this down, but this stuff is really, really nasty. We have to make sure that we don't get any dust in the air because it can totally destroy your lungs. So we're gonna go outside and wet sand it.
Is this overkill? Maybe. I think that's the right kind of kill for this exercise.
So our forefathers would buy chunks of garolite, cut them down with files and saws, and shape them into this manually. This is way less sketchy, it's more expensive, but I'm gonna actually ride this thing. Now, another thing that racers did was epoxy their dogbone links in. I'm not racing this bike, this is a collector's bike. I want it to be rideable and functional, but I don't care if it makes a little noise or something. I wanna be able to get this back out someday and make this last 100 years. It's made of steel. Okay, it's in. I'm happy with it. This will flex until it doesn't. That's what the cable's for. This cable limits the amount it can flex. Engineers figured out, okay, this is a really safe margin. As long as this cable's here and it keeps it from going further, there's no risk that it's just gonna snap on the trail. Once we have this cable all hooked up, the bike is technically done and we can take it for a ride. But first, we're gonna stare at it. Okay, I'm gonna give this a trail test. I can't say that I'm not just a little bit nervous. We don't have period correct pedals on it. The brake pads definitely need to be replaced, and I 3D printed a cap for the crankset. But I'm gonna correct all that. This is the ultimate collector slingshot bike because it's actually rideable, I think. We're about to find out. So I've ridden 90s mountain bikes before. I know what to expect. High pressure tires, narrow, not much suspension. What you don't expect is for them to feel this smooth. This is like the smoothest 90s mountain bike out there, and those new elastomers do a lot. Fork feels really plush for what it is. So the bike actually climbs great. All 90s hardtails did, although this is not technically a hardtail. And so if we consider it a full suspension bike, I guess it probably climbed the best of any 90s full suspension bike because the suspension was very responsive, sprung back really well, not a whole lot of pedal bob that you can feel.
It's kind of awesome, and it's only 25 pounds. Yes. Really super smooth.
I'm ready to push this thing a little bit more. I'm gonna go down this little hill over here, over some rock. We're using the bike exactly as intended, with the exact material, in the exact shape, installed exactly how you're supposed to. And so, wish me luck.
Okay, let's get clipped up. Here goes. Bike is so smooth. It's not the quietest bike in the world. There's a little bit of cable rattle, and those split rings rattle exactly as much as you think they would. You know, this was made for cross-country races back in the day. Cross-country races now are gnarly, but back then they really weren't. In the wet, I forgot how bad rim brakes are. I mean, they stop the bike, but they make a lot of noise. Ah, so close. But not quite. One thing that is nice, the bottom bracket on these bikes was pretty high, and so it's not really getting submerged or anything. And hey, I almost forgot that this thing can snap in half and just send me into a pretzel.
This bike rides amazing. Way better than it did. That's not actually thanks to the new dogbone link, it's thanks to the fork service. When I first got this bike, it was actually in pretty good condition, but it had 2 tires that didn't match. They were a little bit dry rotted. The fork was, of course, probably 2 decades overdue for service, and that dogbone link was not something I could really trust. I probably pushed it harder in that first video than I should have, but now I don't feel sketched out at all. I'm using the bike exactly as intended. Everything feels great. This is the perfect Slingshot bike. I mean, I guess ideally that link would be white or something, but hey, it rides great. So what are we gonna do with it? Well, I'm gonna keep it around for a little bit. I'm gonna clean it up, change those brake pads, and then probably sell it on my website. I have a new website, and one of the reasons for that is I want to try and sell some of my old bikes. I can't keep all of these around, and we could put the money to good use doing other stupid stuff. And so, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something, and if you have ridden a Slingshot bike, you can speak to how smooth they actually ride. So let me know in the comments how you feel. I would really like to hear from some people who have ridden these and actually raced these back in the day. Thanks for riding with me today, and I'll see you next time.